All right, one of the most well-respected investors in Mexico, a billionaire, a man who has made his career off of finding undervalued investments, buying, and then hodling, has just come out in full support, stating why he believes all fiat currencies are a fraud and why he wants to hold Bitcoin over these next 30 years. On top of that, holy cow, the United States Federal Reserve today, for the first time, explicitly called out Tether, the stablecoin, by name as a risk to financial stability. So two big stories, one out of Mexico, one out of the United States, that you need to be aware of as a cryptocurrency investor. Welcome back everybody to Altcoin Daily, where you subscribe for a video on cryptocurrency every day. My name's Austin. Let's start with Mexico, because as people are saying, this is actually mind-blowing due to the credibility and the implication this brings from a traditional investor's point of view. Here's a video of Mexico's third wealthiest man explaining why he believes all fiat currencies are a fraud and why he wants to hold Bitcoin over the next 30 years. Incredible to see this from Ricardo Salinas, given his historic wealth and historic success. Watch this video. Keep in mind it does have subtitles, so watch and listen to this.
Yo sí le he metido mucho tiempo, mucho estudio y pienso que es un activo que debe de estar en el portafolio de cualquier inversionista. Es un activo que tiene valor internacional, que se cotiza con enorme liquidez a nivel mundial y que por eso debería estar en cualquier portafolio. Punto. Lo finito del Bitcoin, los 21 millones, es la clave de todo el tema. Por eso decía yo lo de Ethereum, ¿no? Que mientras no tenga una cantidad finita de emisión, yo no les creo nada, man. Pueden emitir más y se deprecia tu activo, ¿no? Sí. El fiat es un fraude. O sea, mira, yo empecé mi carrera profesional en el 81. El peso estaba a 20 por 1. Hoy estamos a 20,000 por 1. A mí no me cuenten. ¿Sí? Y eso es aquí en México, pero si lo hacemos en Venezuela o en Argentina o en Zimbabue, sí, las cifras pierden toda proporción, ¿no? Entonces, el fraude del fiat es una cosa inherente al sistema fiat y lo estamos viendo ahorita suceder en Estados Unidos. La emisión monetaria se fue a la luna, ¿me entiendes? Entonces, el dólar como moneda dura, pues es una broma.
Si hoy Ricardo Salinas Pliego viajara 30 años en el futuro y pudiera elegir 3 formas de dinero, activos, bienes, ¿qué se llevaría? Oro, plata, bolívares, pesos argentinos, pesos mexicanos.
No. Nada de fiat apestoso por ningún motivo. Ni un peso, nada. Ni un papel fiat.
Sí, definitivamente.
No, yo sí me llevaría los bitcoins.
Unos bitcoins.
Sí.
Okay, the smile says it all. And to notice how fast these dominoes start to fall as more and more people realize there is a finite supply of Bitcoin that no government on earth can print more of. That's powerful. And let's even dig a little deeper, because words obviously are great, but actions are at a whole nother level. And in a response to a retweet from Michael Saylor, Ricardo said this: "Sure, I recommend the use of Bitcoin, and me and my bank are working to be the first bank in Mexico to accept Bitcoin. If you need more details or more information, follow me now." Pretty cool. As a Bitcoin holder, this should make you incredibly bullish. Like it, support it. Let's keep moving. Let's talk about Tether, because this next piece of news could potentially affect the entire cryptocurrency market. Holy cow. The Fed today, for the first time, explicitly called out Tether by name as a risk to financial stability, namely to short-term credit markets. Here it is in the Fed's own words and charts. Here is a screenshot from their presentation exploring 3 financial stability challenges, specifically for periodic disruptions to short-term credit markets as a potential risk to financial stability. They also list other potential cash management alternatives, and then new disruptors, for example, Tether. And looking at the next slide, here's their problem with it. Tether's asset breakdown, what backs Tether as of March 31st, 2021. And it's interesting because Tether has never even been fully audited by any legit auditing company. So this breakdown that's public is us just trusting the Tether website. But assuming it's true, let's just assume it's true for now. This is the breakdown of what backs Tether. It's only 2.9% is backed in cash. Another 2% is backed in treasury bills, 2% in reverse repo notes. The majority of the backing comes from commercial paper, then fiduciary deposits, and secured loans, and then the remainder in corporate bonds, funds, precious metals, other investments, totaling 100% of the assets backed. What's your initial thoughts on this? Because for me, it's starting to get very convoluted on if one USDT actually is worth one USD, $1. Because what are these corporate bonds? How secure are these secured loans? We don't have that much to verify. And that breakdown showed that nearly half the reserves are in commercial paper, but did not specify the issuers or ratings of those debts, leaving the market guessing about the asset's liquidity and creditworthiness. And I agree. Tether's backing is potentially troubling, and that's exactly why the Fed just name-checked them. In best case, let's go best and worst case. Best case, this is blown up out of proportion, Tether is fine, it's backed by everything it needs to be backed by. But worst case, how is this different than the 2008 housing crisis, for example, where they backed all those subprime mortgage loans, marked them as AAA, marked them as good to go, but then in reality, they were backed by garbage. But let's keep moving. The Fed doesn't stop there. Here's an interview with Boston Fed President Rosengren after his speech today, where Yahoo Finance asked him about Tether. Let's zoom in directly on that question. And then I want to shift, lastly, here to stablecoins. You were talking about Tether in your presentation, actually just about an hour ago. It's been taking a lot of air out of some of these prime money market funds, but you pointed out that Tether and a lot of these other stablecoins are deep in things like commercial paper and even corporate bonds in some cases. But my question is that the Fed did step in during the midst of the pandemic to backstop the corporate debt market and commercial paper markets. So I guess, isn't the financial stability risk of those stablecoins like Tether only as big of a risk as the Fed will allow, given its historic role as a backstopper? So what the interviewer is saying here is because Tether is backed by things like corporate bonds and commercial paper, a lot of the same things that the Fed just bailed out during the 2020 pandemic, isn't the financial stability not on Tether, but on the Fed, since they're bailing out these different parts of the economy? The reason I talk about Tether and stablecoins is if you look at their portfolio, it basically looks like a portfolio of a prime money market fund, but maybe riskier. We actually had a stablecoin that ran into financial difficulties last week. Tether, as you highlighted, has a number of assets that, during the pandemic, got spread quite wide on those assets. The Fed intervened in order to make sure that the short-term credit markers continued to operate, and the reason we should be a bit concerned about stablecoin is that it's growing very rapidly, so there's exponential growth in stablecoins. If we had a big shock in financial markets, people tend to move out of those areas quite quickly, the risky areas. And I think that's an area of financial stability we need to pay more attention to. So they're looking into it. What do you think? Give me your thoughts on Tether down below in the comment section. The final part of this 3-part mention is here. From Caitlin Long. Again, every single US dollar ultimately clears through the Fed, which means that the Fed has jurisdiction over any USD stablecoin. It matters that the Fed is commenting on this. Here it is in a final quote from Eric in that Yahoo Finance interview. I do worry that the stablecoin market that is currently pretty much unregulated, as it grows and becomes a more important sector of our economy, that we need to take seriously what happens when people run from these types of instruments very quickly. So he's saying if there was a mass exodus, if something ever went awry, we need to think about what could potentially happen. Give me your thoughts down below. As I get more information, I will keep you updated. That is the video. My name's Austin. Like always, see you tomorrow. And for everybody that showed up to the meetup yesterday in downtown Los Angeles, It was awesome to have a beer and meet you and talk crypto. That's what this community is all about. So great meetup. Great to see everybody. See you tomorrow.